Don't blame the charter, blame the progressives. Peace, Oakland. This is Senator Scott. I'm your host for Gotham Oakland, and welcome back to the show. So when I ran for mayor in 2022, on charter reform, I'll add, no one said a word then. In fact, many of the same people acting like charter reform is their salvation, they mock me for it. So the hypocrisy is staggering, or maybe it's just strategy, counting on voters being too blind to see what's right in front of them. So let's be clear, the charter did not create an illegal dumping crisis, nor did it dismantle, defund, and demoralize the police force. Progressive policies did that. Intentionally, I'll add. So Oakland's decline began in 2018 with the election of Nikki Fortunato Bass and Shing Tao, giving the progressives a council majority. In 2020, Carol Fife joined the club. And by 2020, with the corrupt mayor Shing Tao aligned with the council, progressives had wall-to-wall power. So no excuses about the city's charter hold up or apply here. So what gives? Now don't get me wrong. I ran on a charter amendment for mayor because I believe it was something that was necessary. And I was mocked and mostly ignored for it. I even tried to get Lauren Taylor to run for it and offered to work for his campaign, and he turned me down. So I ran for mayor. Literally, that's why I ran for mayor. Maybe you didn't know that. So yes, the charter amendment was literally the reason I ran for mayor for the third time. But on the low, they heard me. Dan Kalb introduced a limited charter amendment with term limits for council, and that was it, if I remember. But I do also remember Oaklanside interviewing me during the 2020 mayor's race. I presented my charter amendment idea, and Darwin Bagram smirked, tried to paint me as wanting more power. That's what he asked me. But where is he now? Bootlicking for the Soggies as usual. So here's the truth. The charter amendment needs to happen the way that SPUR laid it out, but you can count on the progressives to mess it up. And they plan to use it as a scapegoat when Oakland goes bankrupt next year. I'm not going to let that happen. So when you share this video, please ask City Council why not a single candidate ran on charter reform or even mentioned it in their campaigns. Not once. Save me. So save me excuses. It is painful how unsophisticated and willfully ignorant so many of Oakland's so-called political power players are. Or maybe, as Upton Sinclair put it, it is hard for a man to understand something when his salary depends on him not understanding it. We are witnessing abject failure in City Hall. Barbara Lee was never qualified. I told you that from the start. She's Shing Tao 2.0. Same funders, same slogan, same failed policies, same backers, same sycophants. Seriously, Oakland, wake up. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get into it. So for starters, remember my website here. Well, let's take a look at this. Now, when I ran for mayor, neighbors together, we deserve better. Look at that smiling face. Seneca has a plan. I'm going to go through this so everyone can see what I was talking about in 2022. Y'all need to see what I was on, and you can ask yourself, why was I ignored? No, I wasn't ignored. I was attacked. I don't know if you remember, but the amount of anti-Seneca campaigns and hit pieces ran on me, a regular guy with very little money for mayor, it was a lot. You're going to find out why. Number one on my website, City Hall has weak leaders that lack accountability. Oakland needs to move toward a clearly defined form of government. Under Oakland's current system, it is challenging for the mayor to deliver any agenda. Oakland neighbors deserve an accountable mayor able to solve citywide problems. Without clearer authority, the mayor is unable to fulfill that expectation. And then I click, and it should link to the SPUR report. Oh, never mind. Oh, it does. There you go. But I'll get to that in a minute. Seneca will lead a charter amendment for an accountable mayor form of government that includes the ability to veto legislation and the responsibility for running the city by carrying out the executive functions of the government, including the hiring and firing of department heads. Look at that handsome guy right here. Look at me. 2022. Matter of fact, this picture was when I ran for city council in 2020, so it's actually 5 years old. I don't know, I look good. If you had elected me to the mayor of Oakland, But obviously that didn't happen. And my charter amendment idea went largely ignored. So I'm going to share the Oakland Side article. I love doing this because it points out just, I got everything lined up for you guys today. So here you go. Oakland Side, 2022. Oakland's mayor race, an interview with candidate Seneca Scott. The neighborhood organizer says he will restore rule of law in Oakland and make the city more economically resilient. Out the gate, here's what I said. They asked me the question. In the recent years, there have been several examples of tension between the city council and city administrator. Often the city council doesn't feel like the city administrator is enacting the policies and laws they have approved. On the other hand, the city administrative staff often feels like the city council is overstepping or loading up their plate with too much work. If you were elected mayor, how would you repair this relationship? Here's what I said. I don't want to make too many assumptions about why people think that there's an adversarial relationship between the council and city administrator and mayor. We need to set things up so we can have healthy communication between these departments. Here's the big issue in Oakland City's structure, and it's been that way since 1998 with the passing of Measure X, which created a hybrid system of government where the mayor has the power to hire the city administrator while the city council maintains power to pass legislation and ultimately the budget. So right in there, there's no clear political delineation of power, because if the mayor has an agenda and that agenda is opposed by the majority of city council, they can thwart the mayor's agenda. So ultimately, we elect the figurehead as mayor, and the mayor that we elect needs to have accountability to implement the policies they're elected on without being usurped by the council's legislative power. I'm the only candidate pushing aggressively for a charter amendment and accountable Oakland. I'm going to say that one more time for the people in the back. I'm the only candidate pushing aggressively for a charter amendment and an accountable Oakland. What does Darwin Bongram says? You want an even stronger mayor. Read that. You want an even stronger mayor. That's what it says. That's what Darwin says. And I respond, I like to use the word accountable mayor. But anyway, what do you think about that? Because where is Oakland Side now? Are they asking Barbara Lee, does she want a more powerful mayor? Are they having Stephen Falk? So let's actually go into the SPUR report. I want to go look at the SPUR report so you understand what were the recommendations. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you need to read the SPUR report, and I'm going to tell you what those recommendations are. Give me 1 second. SPUR, Making Government Work, November 15th, 2021. And here's what the report says. I'm just going to go to the recommendations. I encourage you to read it. I'm going to put it in the description of the video, or if you're watching on the X, I'll put the report in the comment underneath the video. So it talks about Oakland's hybrid structure. It's just a very, very good report. 36 pages. It goes through all of the roles and responsibilities. When I read this report, I was like, holy crap, this is the answer. So here are the recommendations. 1, the mayor. SPUR recommended that we move Oakland's mayor from a hybrid council manager model to a form of government, to a clearly defined strong mayor form of government. That's recommendation number 1. Number 2, give the mayor veto power over legislation. Give the mayor line item veto power over the budget. All of this has to be done through a charter amendment, which can get on the ballot either by majority council approval, or citizens can put it on the ballot by a ballot measure. Once it's on the ballot, it has to pass by a 60% majority. So, city council, term limits. They did that one. They did that one in their watered down amendment. Raised the pay. They also raised the pay. They took those recommendations. Ironically, interesting. Create more transparency around the legislative process. Funny how everybody leaves that out of the charter amendment talk. Again, I'm not going to go read it all, but just they want to change the rules of procedures and the rules committee. I encourage you to read it. I don't have much time here today. I don't want to have you here all day. Also, city controller. We don't have a controller. We have a city auditor that doesn't have a very good budget, I'll add. Although I love Michael Houston, our city auditor. Salute, Michael Houston. You do a great job. But we don't have a controller's office, someone who can actually say yes or no and actually not allow council to do things that we don't have the money for. So recommendation number 6 was establish a new independent office of a city controller. I don't hear about that from Barbara Lee. Interesting. City attorney. There's a conflict between the city attorney. Very interesting that they mentioned that. So the recommendation is clarify the process of how and when the city attorney hires the outside counsel. Very important. We're going to get into more of this later. I think I'm going to have a whole episode on this SPUR report. Establish the budget set aside to fund the city auditor. I mentioned they didn't have much money. Create comprehensive priority setting process to establish an annual work plan that we follow by the city council and mayor. Very, very interesting. You can do that through a city ordinance. So those were the SPUR report sharings and recommendations. I wanted to implement every single one of them. I thought it was a fabulous report. Kudos to SPUR. But why are they trying to reinvent the wheel? Why are we having yet another Circus Jericho, what do you call it, committee or whatever Barbara Lee's forming for the charter? We don't need that. SPUR already did the work. They're doing that because they love to meet us to death. They just love to do that. I don't understand it. So I've got a couple other things that I have queued up here today. Let's watch the video. Now remember, I'm making a claim that the city of Oakland is going to try to use the charter and blame the charter on the reform. So let's watch the video, and then I'm going to give some closing remarks, and we'll get out of here.
The majority of Oakland residents are not happy with how their city is functioning. An Oakland Chamber of Commerce survey found 75% say the city is on the wrong track.
Some blame the city charter, which they say is dysfunctional and does not hold Oakland leaders accountable. ABC 7 News Building a Better Bay Area reporter Leanne Melendez here now.
Some blame the city charter. You hear him? Out the gate, first words out of his mouth. This is public relations for the city. It is so darn obvious. It is so darn obvious that this is public relations for the city. Some don't blame the city charter. Most people don't even know that the city charter is what it is. I called this weeks ago, just so you know. I called this weeks ago on Gotham Oakland. I told you that they were going to try to blame the city charter, cling to it, to blame it for the city's dysfunction. Let's keep watching. I'm not going to keep interrupting, but come on, y'all.
With a look at the efforts to try to fix things, and this is kind of a recurring theme in the city of Oakland.
Yeah, it is. And when you mention the city charter or reforming it, people run for the hills. They don't want to talk about it, but it's important. Now, here's a question for the people of Oakland.
You hear that?
Who runs your city? If you guess the mayor or city council, not so much. The power to get nearly anything done in Oakland comes from one person, the city administrator. Well, sort of. If you are confused, so were we. That's why we went searching for the answer.
So you went searching for the answers now? But you weren't searching for
Oakland
the answers
has
in 2022?
problems.
When I ran on the city charter?
Dumping.
Companies leaving the city.
The car break-ins.
The potholes, nothing's getting fixed.
And a budget crisis.
Oakland's city government is dysfunctional, and it's by design.
Wait, what? By design? Who did that?
Look at this overly produced fake documentary on the... I'm going to blow a fucking gasket. How behind are you, Oakland? Senator Scott was talking about this charter reform in 2022. I ran for mayor on it. Where was KTVU then? Where was Better Bay Area then? Where were the progressives then? I think it's safe to admit I'm smarter than all of you. I am smarter than every single person who's ran for office in the city of Oakland by your own admittance, because if the city charter is that important and I'm the only one who was talking about it and running on it, then maybe I know a lot more than people let on. And maybe that's why people keep attacking me, like Oakland Side and all of these progressives trying to file restraining orders against me because I use my voice to talk about things like this, to point out the hypocrisy and corruption in our city. They don't care about the charter. They don't care about the charter. The city of Oakland is going bankrupt next year, and they're going to try to use this as an excuse. You better wake up and listen to me.
Is owning a piece of the American dream right here in the city of Oakland, and I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Before taking office, former Oakland Mayor Jerry Brown supported Measure X, which basically took some powers away from the city council and shifted them to the city administrator. Voters passed it in 1998. Through Measure X, the city administrator now had one and only one boss, Jerry Brown. Things got done at City Hall. But today, that has changed, and many people in Oakland have come to realize that this model of government, which is included in the city's charter, is not working to solve the problems in Oakland.
Oakland is less responsive compared to other California cities.
Stephen Falk, a former city administrator himself, is behind the efforts to reform Oakland's charter.
So here's where I interrupt things to give you a quick definition of a charter.
A city's charter is kind of like its constitution, a social contract of sorts that is adopted by the people it governs.
That's you, an Oakland voter.
You rarely see so much production go into this. They put a lot of work into this. This is literally public relations, trying to get the blame off of the progressive policies. The progressives defunded the police. That's why Oakland's failing. The progressives allowed the homeless and supported harm reduction and supported housing first policies. That's why we have the housing crisis. That's why they're all coming to Oakland, because other cities are cracking down on illegal RV encampment. We already have rules about RV encampment. The mayor is in charge of the police. The mayor runs the police. They can hire or fire the police chief without any council oversight. The mayor can fire the city administrator. So the mayor is in charge of a city administrator. This is bullshit. Call it what it is. They're trying to cover for the city going bankrupt. I keep telling y'all, everybody who watches Gotham Oakland is going to know.
Charter, 132 pages long, and every time you vote, things get added to the charter just like Measure X did.
So who has the power in Oakland? Let's start with the 8 city council members. Say residents of one neighborhood are fed up with all this illegal dumping. The most obvious thing to do is to contact their city council member.
Except that another amendment passed in 2014 says that council member is not allowed to contact anyone at the Department of Public Works to help solve the problem. That would be called favoritism.
Take council member Noel Gallo, who has a huge illegal dumping problem in his district.
Why don't you go to the head of the Department of Public Works?
I communicate with them on a regular basis,
How come Noel Gallo has never mentioned the charter reform? I don't know, he's been an elected official for 15 years. He's never mentioned the charter reform in none of the 4 times he's run for office. And now all of a sudden he wants to talk about Section 218. You could talk to the city administrator. Your constituents can talk to Public Works.
But I also have to be very careful that I can't tell you what to do and how to do it, because then I get accused of micromanaging.
The only person who can order the Department of Public Works to address the illegal dumping in Gallo's district is the city administrator. That's if the city administrator considers it a priority. And so the illegal dumping issue may not go away. That's why Councilmember Gallo has his own cleaning team comprised of 4 men, picking up what people dump illegally. Council members are allowed to employ up to 7 staff members. So rather than work in the office solving other problems, half of his staff is picking up garbage because the problem is so severe. What about the mayor? Barbara Lee is not allowed to hire or fire any department heads. Only the appointed city administrator can do that. There's only one person Mayor Lee can hire or fire, the police chief. Former Mayor Sheng Tao.
They forgot that the mayor hires or fires the city administrator. So they conveniently left that out.
Fired Police Chief Laurent Armstrong in 2023. Oh, and none of the department heads report directly to the mayor. They answer to the city administrator.
Nor does the mayor have veto power.
So let's say the mayor presents her annual budget proposal. Council members can reject it and pass their own budget. And there's nothing the mayor can do to stop them.
In fact, the mayor does not attend city council meetings. That's in the charter. There is no place at the table for the mayor.
In Oakland, the mayor is effectively removed from making public policy, which is unlike almost every other city in California.
The only way for a mayor to move his or her agenda forward is to work with.
Okay, let me present some more evidence that this whole charter thing that they're trying to all of a sudden manufacture as an excuse for their failures is a hoax. Look at what we have here. We have the a roadmap to a sustainable budget. This is a document that, hold on, let me put it here. Let me put my, what is that? Will that work? This is a document from the unions, all right? So check this out. You see who at the bottom here. What's causing Oakland's deficit? They're trying to blame public safety and defund. This is from 2021. Oakland already commits the majority of its general fund budget to public safety and frequently overspends. Balancing the deficit through cuts to non-sworn services alone is not practical. Reports of dramatic increase in city worker compensation are overstated and don't distinguish between public service, safety, and civilian employees, and sharp increase to police overtime is driving deficit. Hiring officers is becoming too expensive. Think about that. Police overspending. Everything's about defund back then. This is back during the defund days when all Oakland was thinking about for our budget is cutting police. That's why we only have 515 officers, guys. Oakland cut public safety in the budget. And then when we didn't have any police, crime exploded, and now we have no revenue. That's called a doom loop. Here it is right here. Revenue decline. Since the pandemic, revenue has plummeted. Of course it did. They want to talk about business tax collection. That's like less than 7%. Businesses are leaving. That's why. Budget mismanagement, and it's all public safety. Everything they mention is a public safety issue. Roadmap to sustainable. Public safety, promote efficiency in the police department. They want Measure NN. I mean, look, I'm just showing you real quick. Police overspending is a progressive issue for the budget. I don't see, here it is again, they have a pig in a piggy bank. Subtle, very subtle, or not so subtle. Did you see a single thing about the city's charter? There is not a single, it's all about cutting police. This whole thing is about defunding the police. Did you see a single thing in here about the city charter? None. None. I'm just going through. It's all about defunding the police and passing Measure NN and NM, whatever, that they passed, and then what? What did they do after they passed it? They didn't follow it because the minimum police staffing that we were supposed to get, we never got. Anyway, on to the next segment. Just pointing that out. Yes, the charter needs to be reformed. It needs to be reformed the way that SPUR laid it out. It needs to be reformed the way that SPUR laid it out. Okay? Now, I had queued up a bunch of old articles about budgets that they had messed up in the past, but I'm not even going to share them. I'm just going to put them up on the screen. But remember in 20s, Sheng Tao passed the budget. There was no pushback from City Council. So when Sheng Tao was elected mayor, the progressives had wall-to-wall power, and they passed Sheng Tao's budget. She passed 2 budgets, no pushback from City Council. None. Kevin Jenkins passed the budget. No pushback from City Council. None. Because they were all progressives. So they can't blame a charter on those budgets. They can't blame the charter on the budget that City Council accepted from Tsingtao that included the sale of a Coliseum. That was Tsingtao's idea. Council could have shut it down, but they didn't. Why? Because the progressives are all aligned. So just think about that, right? Think about that. Just give you something to think about. They are only talking about the city charter to use it as a scapegoat for progressive failures. They are only talking about reforming the city charter to use it as a scapegoat to cover for progressive failures. The progressives were the ones who defunded, demoralized, and dismantled Oakland Police Department. That is the root cause of our issue. Cities are places of commerce. The number one job of a city government is to protect commerce. Number one job, protect commerce. Why is that important? Well, for the working class, cities are the only place that give them the mobilization, the economic mobilization. Without a city, you have no working class or middle class. You're either hunter-gatherers or you're serfs, or you're in rural-like communities. Think about that for a second. Cities are so important. Protect commerce, keep the infrastructure growing, and educate the next generation of competitive workers, and take care of people, elders and babies who can't take care of themselves. That's the job of a city. Potholes, schools, education, police, the guard. You have to protect commerce from piracy. Every city known to man since the dawn of time has faced the same core responsibilities. But what we have is a city government full of people who've never run a business. We have a government full of people who want to be mayor who've never had executive functions because they come from a legislative background, if they even come from that. And the legislation that we're being spoon-fed, it's not original ideas from city council. It's ideas that come from their progressive handlers that they're given to them with the sole purpose of dismantling Oakland and every other city. And so on Friday, we're going to get back into the core theme of Gotham Oakland. I think we need to have a refresher. People need to understand what's going on here. We're going to talk about the Chinese Progressive Association, Public Sector Labor Union, Open Societies Foundation, California Foundation, the San Francisco Foundation. We're going to go back and give you a primer about the low-intensity conflict that is happening in Oakland, California, and in many cities around the United States. So stay tuned. See you back here Friday, tomorrow, on Gotham Oakland. And I love you guys. Take it easy. Take care. Don't let the city use this charter amendment as a scapegoat for their failures. And make sure they do the charter amendment the right way. Make sure what actually goes on the ballot for voters to accept or reject is what SPUR put up there, and not some cockamamie ideas progressives cook up to keep maintaining some kind of power. Because you know that's what they're doing. You know that's what they're doing. These are not good people. The people in charge of the city of Oakland are a cult and a criminal cabal hell-bent on destroying California and America. Like I said, come back Friday and I'll prove that hypothesis. Love y'all. Peace.
Yo, I swear it's only up from here. Yo, I swear it's only up from here. Yo, I swear it's only up from here. Yo, I swear it's only up from here.